Shivani is in the ring and welcomes the man he introduced on this network in 1987, Sting. Sting walks out and he reflects on his career, traveling up and down the roads with Lex Luger, the Steiners, Buff Bagwell, and then mentions people ahead of me like Dusty Rhodes, the most charismatic person I ever met, Hulk Hogan, who is booed to the point that Sting, okay, not the greatest guy, but I did learn something from him. And then thanks Ric Flair, mentioning their Clash match from 88, the title win at the Great American Bash in 1990. The crowd is chanting, "Thank you, Sting," because they know where this is going as he's mentioning the word. I'm not going to say the word yet, but he is referring to retirement. And he knows that why wrestlers keep hanging around. It's because of the camaraderie in the locker room, the roar of the fans. And yes, my body doesn't work the same way it did 20 years ago when I was a spry 44 years old.
He was moving pretty well at 44.
Mentions jumping off balconies and then finally reveals the word. He says, I retired once in 2015, but that did not sit right with me. And at the time, I said, the only thing for sure about Sting is nothing is for sure. But I want to speak about that word right here in Texas, which leads to a chant of Rosenberg. And they weren't chanting for Peter. They were like, we want our city to get some, we're not 35 miles out of the Houston area, as they refer to it. So Sting's like, okay, Rosenberg, Texas. Man, what a weird crowd tonight. But I love it. I love it. So man nearly got thrown off here. But I mean, Sting had his mission statement. He explains he started wrestling for AEW. His first match was at Revolution 2021, and his last match will be at Revolution 2024, and states that the only thing for sure is that my retirement at Revolution is for sure. And that is Sting's declaration of the farewell tour that will go on for the next couple of months. And it looks like Revolution, usually late February, early March. So that's the timetable that we're looking at, and doing the big send-off, which it's like a really big story that they have to do, and to have several months of just treating this guy as the big legendary figure and going to all these cities for the last time.
Giving us, a good half year of being able to know that this is coming, and therefore making all of his subsequent appearances feel that much more special. I mean, I think it's wonderful that a wrestler of his stature can even attempt to get the type of send off, like this. It's again, anytime you have something really like built up through a long time, it's going to feel that much more special, and in this case, that much more emotional by the time we finally get to it. So, he hasn't had a singles match yet in AEW, right? To my recollection.
No, I don't believe so.
Do you think we get one at any point, including possibly the actual last match? Should we? Like, do you care to see a singles match with Sting right now?
I always thought that you could do him going for the title as one final story. It's an option. I don't know if you need to do it. I think there's a reason he hasn't done singles matches either. I mean, there's like, what do you want? Like, the reality is, listen, this guy has gone above and beyond in this, but he'll be turning 65 in March. And I think you want him to go out and the fans feel good about it, as opposed to putting him out there where, in a title match situation like that. That's a big ask of Sting, but I don't rule it out entirely. Like, that is probably for the biggest build is something where, like, you could do Sting versus Darby. Like, could you get away with that?
Right opponent, right type of match, right, like bells and whistles, you can really probably get by with anything. I do imagine at some point throughout this final run they'll want to put up on the marquee Sting versus blank. Maybe Darby, I think, makes perfect sense as a final opponent. And make it no DQ. You can throw the world around it. Just you're at the very least able to promote a Sting singles match, and I do see it at some point.
Can it live up to the Muto retirement from this past year, which ended up being a hell of a retirement match that he did?
True. Yeah.
And that was one that I think we were very, very leery about Muto doing a retirement match with Naito.
I think they'll do a good job. Yeah. Well, Chono really was the real retirement, John,
I hope they make a big deal out of this, much like the way we've seen many like ball players retire when Julius Erving retired in like every city. It was treated as a bit like this is the final time you get to see Julius Erving play or to see like Derek Jeter play. And like this would be the time that I'd want to do a Sting appearing. It doesn't have to be wrestling, but just appearing weekly and going to these cities for the final time. And it should be a big deal. The last time he goes to the Greensboro Coliseum, the last time in Atlanta, all these different ones. And
the last time in Rosenberg, we might have just seen it right now.
Well, all roads should lead back here for a revolution, should it not?
Maybe, yeah. No. Where does that happen, by the way?
It's a good question. I would want to put it at like somewhere of significance. Like that should be the selling feature of that show.
I think it'll be the main event, and I for sure
it should be. Like you should not be doing this as just fifth match on a 10-match card, and it's part of the package. Like exploit this for all it's worth. Like you have put in the work that not one of us would have forecasted this kind of run for Sting in 2020 when he showed up. And they have, and listen, it's not just the promotion, it's the guy himself. Like this guy has worked super hard. Now is the time to really kind of, market this, because I think you've put in the work with this guy where he is treated like a legend and the audience takes him as such.
Totally. I think it'll be the type of thing, like it'll be their version of the Undertaker's retirement. If they knew that he was actually going to retire in 6 months rather than maybe retiring.
They needed a hook for Survivor Series, and they're like, it's the Undertaker's retirement ceremony.
Yeah. But Sting is really that level of figure in AEW at this point. And certainly in the mind of somebody like a Tony Khan, he will treat this with the most reverence I'm sure you've seen,
bring in some of the legends to just bid him farewell. Like the ones that are still alive that, you could have like different cities, it's like, just, it should be like the constant theme, like just, different video messages. Like you could do a lot with this is what I'm saying.